this one has started.
Okay. This one started. So you're going to be comfortable syncing these up?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What do we want to call our podcast?
Oh, that's a good question.
Do we want to call it the Good News Podcast?
Good News
We want to call it the... Well, Good News and Epic are the two ones that I use the most. I also like A Few Good Men.
A Few Good... That's one. I like that one.
I like that one because, well, I have this thing that I'm working on. I'm working on this year-long course. Of course, if I don't get thrown into prison first for not taking a vaccine, but it's a year-long course where we focus on young men, particularly young men who are fatherless. And I'm thinking we'll work with maybe 2 to 4 of them. And just come in and give them the things that equip young men to know that they have what it takes to actually enter manhood.
Yeah.
Right. So I was thinking about the different categories of it. So physical fitness, obviously I can handle teaching them that here in the gym studio. And so they would do that for the entire year, get in better shape. Financial fitness, they would, they'd get some money, they'd have a checkbook, they would learn how to save, they would learn how to give generously or tithe. And then just there would be a weekend course where they learned about financial fitness for maybe 2 to 4 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'd have local bankers or financial advisors come in and just teach them the basics. And then I was thinking relationship fitness. So teach them about emotional intelligence, teach them about love languages, teach them about how to fight fair, how to not give in to some of those things. Automotive fitness, I was thinking about that. So how to detail a car, how to change your oil, how to jump a car, basics of how a car is made up. So get like local mechanics involved in something like that. What do you think of that idea?
Well, first off, as a preface, that is a great idea to begin with. And all of those groups. I mean, I've been lucky enough, my dad, and he's taught me all those things, and you've taught me physical fitness as well.
Right.
Really with that, you just have to consider how would you outreach into the community, and then how would you do all of those things? Where would these guys stay if you would just have them come in for the day and then leave?
I'm thinking we would work with CSD, or just not even necessarily work with a government organization, just make the program known to people in the community. Say, hey, look, we're trying to help fatherless young men. We don't care how rough they are, right? I mean, obviously they can't be actively committing felonies, but, I'm thinking that's who we want. We want these young guys who are acting out or disenfranchised or disenchanted, or however you want to put it, who need men in their lives to take them through these sort of rites of passage. Like, this is what a man does. This is what a man knows, and you do it for a year. I don't see how that couldn't possibly usher them into manhood more equipped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying it would instantly make them a great man. And obviously, I would start with spiritual fitness. Like, I'd want them to know Jesus. I'd want them to hear the gospel. You obviously can't force somebody to put their faith in them.
Yeah.
But I would want it to be a program where that was the underlying vein as well. So I've actually written out the outline for this. And so scriptures that go with it. Right, so self-defense fitness. I'd want to teach them how to box, or teach them, have somebody teach them jiu-jitsu, teach them how to, tear down a handgun, put it back together, shoot, safety, all that kind of basic stuff. And then, of course, I got the Joshua 1:9 here, and that's be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. So that would be like one module, right? So self-defense fitness.
Yeah.
Because God made you to protect yourself, but also to protect your spouse, right?
Yeah.
So protect your wife and your kids. So, and I think a lot of guys lack confidence in that area. They don't know what they could know in maybe 8 weeks.
Right.
Teach them how to box for 4 weeks. Teach them something else, maybe jiu-jitsu or something for 4 weeks, and then maybe 2 weekends of how to operate and fire and clean a gun.
Yeah.
speaking of, I mean, you've used handguns and rifles,
Yep.
right?
I have hunting license to do that. You have to get hunter you have to do a hunter safety course, which shows you how to the one I did at least, how to clean, take apart a gun, put it back together, how to properly use it. But of course, I say this a lot, but it depends on who teaches it to you and what kind of person you are, really, if you want to learn that kind of stuff.
What did that do for you, learning that? Like, did you go into it like, I got no idea what's going on here?
Yeah. Well,
and then walk away from it thinking, wow, that's really helpful. I feel more competent around guns now.
of course, yeah. So a lot of the times, even when you get a refresher, and maybe you'll pick something up new that you forgot or didn't know in the first place. My dad took me hunting when I was little, so I started to learn that stuff pretty early on as well. So I feel comfortable around different kinds of firearms and
Right.
handling them. But that is just one circumstance, and it's always important for everybody, men, women, to understand how to at least handle a firearm correctly.
I agree. I mean, not all of them want to.
Right.
I don't know too many guys that don't want to, though, right? If we're talking
Yeah.
about young guys here, like, they kind of naturally take to cops and robbers and, So, yeah, so do you see a need for a course like that in our culture?
Yeah, probably.
Have you known any guys that are fatherless and that just seem to be spinning out and their lives seem to be a little bit out of control? Or
I've met a couple dudes who don't have a father, but I guess quite a few of those kinds of guys ended up just joining the military anyway.
Right. Well, that's the other thing. Like, if we get a 17-year-old and take him through all this stuff, the military could be a good option for them, right?
Yeah.
They would definitely be more ready with the physical fitness and all these other things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, we just had that sad situation about that young man that just committed suicide here in Hartford. I don't know if you heard about that.
I did not hear about that.
Yeah, I don't want to mention his name just because I just don't think it would help. But there was a teenage guy, maybe 19 probably. I think he graduated. And I'm not sure. Seemed like a real nice young guy. I think he came from a good family. And, I just think all of this stuff going on out there with the pandemic and the lockdown and everybody arguing about stuff all the time and not knowing how to sift through it, I'm sure there was a certain amount of hopelessness there. Like, where is the world headed?
Right.
And because I watched him, he was a basketball player. He was a gifted basketball player. He was on the varsity team. Fit, handsome. When I saw him in the paper, I thought, I didn't know. It didn't say how he died. I was suspicious. It didn't say. I thought maybe it was a car accident or something like that. And then when I found out that he had, died by suicide, I was shocked. I was really shocked, and I thought, and all these things that we talked about, personal fitness, blah blah blah. The one underlying thing that I think I would love to have talked to him about is, did he know God? I mean, did he know Jesus? The
Right.
security that comes from knowing that you know him, right? That you know him,
Yeah.
and you know that he's real, and you know that he's there. So let me just hop right into that, because we're, one thing by the way, I don't know if we're going to edit this out or not, but we didn't introduce ourselves. We're just
No.
two random dudes talking.
My name is Henry, and this is Aaron.
Aaron, this is my podcast. My first podcast, so we're screwing around with it. But yeah, so Henry, thanks for joining me on this, the podcast that has yet to have a name. So just playing around since we're trying to go through this. Jesus. I see you're wearing a Love People Riverbank Church. Pretty sure they know Jesus there. So the question is, how did you come to know him?
Well, as far back as I can remember, I've been dragged to church, really. But then
You weren't hopping and skipping on your way to church?
No.
Should we name the church that you were drugged to, or should we let them remain anonymous?
Well, I mean, eventually, you might as well enjoy yourself because you're not getting out of it, So, and really, I think it was just the problem that I didn't want to sit there for an hour and a half and listen to some guy stand up on stage drone on.
Stand up on stage, what?
And drone on.
Oh, okay. Normally that's called preaching, but sure, droning on.
Well, it's because sometimes it's just, it's hard to focus on what he's saying because he's just kind of standing there.
Over your head.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a kid, it's hard.
I was little, so it just,
But they didn't have like a children's church that you could go to?
You age out of it eventually, I think.
Oh, right. Yeah, so you age out at like 10 or something?
Christine. Yeah.
Are we about to be interrupted?
A little bit.
Wow. See, this is why you need security for your podcast.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of shooting a podcast. You can't just walk into it, lady. Wow. What do you live here? Gosh. Right. So the wifey just walked in. We'd get a shot, but I would probably get a shot if we turned the camera on her right now.
But
so going back to Jesus, you're getting drugged to church, aged out of youth or Sunday school, whatever.
Sunday school,
So now you're just sitting there. It's kind of over your head. You don't know Jesus at this point. You're just hearing stuff.
Not really.
So how'd you come to know him?
Well, eventually, as you get older, I started being able to actually understand what was being said. And, you really start trying to apply it to, my life. And because of that, I guess it started out as maybe a slow crawl, you might say, of really understanding.
Well, that's how the Bible refers to it, right? When you start out, you're a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard for people to wrap their mind around that too, especially adults. Yeah. But yeah, so you were in a slow crawl.
Yeah, and then, my friends were getting baptized, and then my sisters got baptized, but I didn't get baptized for like 9 years. So.
You were 9 when you got baptized?
No.
Now, how old were you when you got baptized?
I got baptized last year, so I was 16.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I was there for it.
Yeah.
16. Yeah. That's a good age to get baptized.
Yeah.
Because you understand what it means.
I understood what it really meant to get baptized.
So for people who don't understand why somebody's getting dunked underwater in the name of the invisible guy we can't see, well, what would you tell them? Why do you do that?
Well, of course, it is just water and some dudes pushing you under and pulling you up. But it's what it means and represents spiritually. Mm-hmm. That, by going under the water, your worldly life is ending, and then you're being brought back up out of the water in the name of Jesus. And
is this the same as being born again?
Yes, that's what it is.
Right. So, we have a lovely lady over here who's given birth to 3 kids, but when you give birth to a baby, isn't that right? The water breaks and out they come. Is that correct? Having never given birth to a child, I'm just going by what I've heard. But yeah, so your water breaks, right? I think there's a corollary there, don't you think? There's a... Right? You could go into a tomb and walk out. There's a lot of different ways that you could do it, but baptism is in water. And I think it's, I think there's a cleansing. It's similar to actually being born, so that you are emerging from this water-filled thing, just like you would from a womb.
Right.
Because it's a strange concept, being born again. There's that story of that guy in the Bible. Do you remember what that guy's name was in the Bible?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's kind of embarrassing not knowing this one, but he was the Pharisee or the Sadducee who asked Jesus, how does one get born again? Because Jesus told him he needed to be born again.
Yeah.
And he said, how does one get born again? What, do I climb back into my mother's womb? So that's a strange concept for some people, but
especially back then when it was an actual like new concept
Right.
and nobody had heard it before.
But the kind of born again he's talking about is they're spiritually dead.
Yeah.
You need to be born again spiritually, right? And so that's the spiritual birth that's taking place when you got baptized.
Yes.
Were you nervous?
Yeah, especially since right before I was getting baptized, I was told, yeah, no, nobody else is showing up. You're the only one getting baptized
Center
today.
stage. Nice.
So, yes, I was definitely.
You didn't seem nervous.
I just
I remember it was-
repressed feelings.
Yeah. Well, and of course Riverbank too. They put on
Yeah.
a big show, so
Yeah.
it's not like just getting dunked in a river.
Hmm.
This is, but again, you're probably going to be nervous because I mean, think about the implications, right?
Yeah.
All of heaven is checking you
Yeah.
out at that point,
So
going.
as you're doing that, all
This
those
is
thoughts
the-
are just flooding your
Right.
mind.
Did you feel different after you did it?
Definitely, but it might have also just been adrenaline. But you could all, yes, I did feel different, to say short.
So we still haven't really tackled how do you know Jesus?
How-
Like what makes you certain that you know him?
Well, I guess really it's about the concept of faith. So, you have faith that you have faith that he was real, which he was, and that he was God, and that God exists. And the idea of faith is believing in something that is not there or that you can't prove is there. And that is what makes it a big deal, you might say, is because you're putting this faith in something that you can't actually prove exists, but we do have the proof being the Bible that
You have evidence, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the Bible would be testimonial or documentary
yeah
evidence. Is there any other evidence though that isn't, historical or
isn't- okay,
intellectual?
isn't historical. So I was about to say, well, the places he went are real. And
But is there any other evidence?
any other evidence?
'Cause I know what I have in mind.
Please, I would like to hear.
Well, you get his Holy Spirit.
That's true.
You get his Holy Spirit. It says in 2 Timothy 1:7, it's a spirit of power and love and self-control. I can speak from experience. I lacked power, I lacked love, and I lacked self-control before I put my faith in Jesus. And then when I did that, and I got baptized, and I was all in with my relationship with him, suddenly there was power. Suddenly I loved people. And when I say I didn't have love for people, I mean I didn't have love for people. Like, I didn't like people and I didn't love them. I really didn't. And all of my liking and loving of them was self-serving and selfish, right? That blew my mind because everybody annoyed me before I got saved. Everybody was a pain in my ass before I got saved. Everybody, it was easy to judge them. So having some sort of spiritual transformation inside of me where I was like, wow, I suddenly actually love these people. Like, I care about what happens to them. I care about their well-being. That was eye-opening. And then the self-control for me, that was another one because I completely lacked self-control when it came to women, when it came to drugs, when it came to pornography, when it came to drinking alcohol, when it came to my schedule, when it came to my personal health. Like, I had little self-control. So, for me, it was much, much later in life. I didn't get saved until I was 30. So I had plenty of time to screw my life up.
Yeah.
I would say,
Well, you're here now.
I don't know if I had it to do over again. I don't think I would do it any differently just because I love what God's done in my life and it is kind of a cool story.
Right.
But I did cause myself and a lot of other people a lot of heartache and pain that I can see you are in a much better position to not do that to people as you get older. So do you feel like you've noticed a spiritual change in you?
I spiritual change, like
Well, like you notice the Holy Spirit,
yeah, I
the
definitely,
evidence of it.
what is it? If you see God's hand in everything. Wait, no, that's not how it goes.
If you leave everything in God's hands,
Yeah,
eventually you
you'll
will see God's hand in everything. Yeah.
Right. So I think that's.
Shout out to the Light Radio Network.
I listen to the Light Radio Network 9 hours a day, Monday through Friday.
Oh, because
For
Ben?
work. Yeah, for work.
Ben, yeah. Ben Nichols. Right on, man.
Yeah. And so definitely just having that pumped into my head 9 hours a day. That's definitely
Great radio station.
Yeah, it is. It's entertaining, and you can learn. You can learn a lot
You
from it.
learn a ton, yeah. Yeah, I used to do regional reporting for them, but yeah, no, it's a wonderful resource. It's not a big deal.
Oh,
I would call in every other week, and they'd interview me over the phone, and I just talk about what churches were doing. So Valley Bible, let's say, was having a speaker. You know, Bodie Bachum's going to be there August. I'd announce it on the radio. You know, Christ Community was having a concert, or Christ Redeemer Church was doing a Vacation Bible School, something
Right.
like. It was just, that's all it was.
okay.
It was voluntary. I didn't get paid anything,
Oh,
but it did set me up for this.
nice.
Right? So
Yeah.
it gave me some time doing that. All right. So, well, you kind of already talked about what you think of church before you were getting drugged there. What do you think of church now?
It's definitely save that for a different topic. But church now is good, and I can sit in the sermons, not sit through, but sit in on a sermon and really listen and learn and think.
Where do you go to church now? The Riverbank?
Yes, as the shirt may imply, I do go there. But we have been watching the online services of First Baptist Church somewhere out in Illinois, the church that my father's brother works for.
Oh, okay.
So
So you like church now?
I do.
What's your favorite thing about church?
Well, the community probably, and
The people?
yeah, serving. I enjoy serving.
What do you do when you serve?
I've hosted on a few occasions.
Host? What is that? See people to their seats?
Yes. So
Okay.
kind of open the door to the auditorium,
Right.
and you're like, oh hey, this
Hand
row is
him
open.
the sheet for the
hand him the
notes
sheet,
and all that.
and then I got the lightsaber one time.
Ooh,
So that was
big
pretty-
time.
Yeah.
You didn't hurt anybody with it, did you?
No, it wasn't real, sadly. It was just
Yeah.
a light.
It'd be way cooler if you get a Wookiee.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Helping people to their seats with your Wookiee right behind
Yeah.
you. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so what is your coolest God story?
Like
Where it was very obvious to you
Supernatural-
God was doing something in your life. It could be anything you want. I'll tell you if it's crazy or not. But
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably giving me the confidence to actually sign up to be baptized, because I was super nervous about it.
Yeah.
Which now that I think about it, I probably shouldn't have been. But in the moment, I was like, do I really know why I'm doing this? Do I really want to?
Yeah.
And then you have to think, in doing this, I then kind of morally would have to hold myself to a higher standard. And I wasn't sure.
That's the hard part. Yeah.
Yeah. It was
I
like,
fail all the time, by the way, but
Yeah.
you know, I
This
lean
guy.
on grace. I lean on grace. So, have you ever had any, like, other than that, have you ever had any answers to prayer? I mean, do you pray and ask for things and then He answers it?
Definitely.
So, tell me your coolest answer to prayer.
My coolest,
The one that just got your attention the most or amazed you.
That's tough. Um, prayers are meaningful, but I normally don't remember what I pray for.
Say that louder.
I normally don't remember prayers that I say.
Really?
Yeah, I do
You
know.
should keep a prayer journal. That's what I do.
Yeah, I do pray. This is a prayer I do often. Is I'll pray. I'll thank God for everything that He's already allowed me to have and given me, and that He gave His only Son for my sin.
Right.
But also that because if you know what I do for work, it's very monotonous, just walking through a field doing labor. So I pray that He'll give me the endurance to work hard, enjoy the day that He gives me, and
these are super practical prayers. I like it.
kind of also because I listen to the light, if there is a meaningful statement that I were to hear, that I would be able to take it to heart and apply it.
Yeah. Wow. Jeez. That's impressive that you're doing this at that age. I mean, it's and then just as an adult, I think I do things similarly. Probably not quite as what's the word I'm looking for? Purposefully.
Right.
But yeah, I find that's kind of the same thing for me at 47 years of age, and you're what, 16, 17
I'm
years
17,
of age? Yeah, so
yeah.
about 30 years down the road. A lot of that is the same thing for me in my day, but I think at 47, I just know that it's going to go that way.
Right.
I know, and I wake up thinking about God first thing, and I just watch Him do awesome stuff with my day every day, and it's super exciting me, right down to having, my own gym and the detail studio, and it can be listening to worship stuff, or I like to listen to debates and things like that. It's fun to feel like He's with you in all of that.
Yeah.
And like He's speaking directly to you.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that normally if I don't pray that, then the next day of work will suck.
So you've noticed there's a pattern there.
Yeah.
How about that? Yeah. I have similar stories, but I don't want to make this about me. So, all right. COVID.
Right.
That stuff is awful. What are your thoughts on that?
Well,
don't worry about us getting kicked off of
okay.
YouTube. If you think there's some bioweapon conspiracy, you go right ahead. You go right ahead and share it.
Like, it came from the town of Wuhan?
City. It wouldn't be a town. It's a city.
Okay. So, and it was allegedly from like some raw bat that a dude ate, and then he got.
Oh, that was the official story.
Yeah, but I was wondering, is that where it came from, or did it just like?
Well, so the
happen?
official first story was it came from a wet market in Wuhan, China. Wuhan is a city, a million or so people, maybe more. But there is a bioweapons laboratory there.
Oh.
So it's kind of hard to ignore the weapons lab and just think, oh, some bat just got this SARS-CoV-2 virus randomly from, I don't know, hanging out with pigs in a wet market. I don't know. I've never been to a wet market, but my understanding is they have a lot of strange animals to be eaten there.
Right.
So I think the theory is it germinated out of just that environment, which I find utterly hard to believe because there's a bioweapons lab there, and Dr. Anthony Fauci has ties to the lab. Apparently George Soros has ties to the lab. Are these names that you're familiar with?
I've heard Fauci.
He's the head of the CDC.
He's the head of CDC.
He's that little guy who's, in the press conferences with Trump. He's a tiny little guy with the glasses with the thick, Brooklyn accent, who's always talking about, whether wear a mask or social distancing or.
Yeah.
Do you know who George Soros is?
Nope.
Wow. Well, I'll have to red pill you on that. So, so do you think it came from a bat, or do you think it came from?
Well, I mean,
the bioweapons lab that was there.
Yeah, I mean, I like to settle. Just give it to me. Yeah, because I don't. really care where it came from. It's here, so
Right.
we have to figure out on how to get rid of it, not really focus on, oh, well, how did it get here? Just get rid of it. We don't need to focus on where it came from.
There's a part of me that completely disagrees with you.
Okay. Well, that's
Because if it came from a bioweapons lab and it's not in our world by accident, like if it was deliberately
right.
released into our culture, and I've actually watched a video that claims that happened.
Okay.
It's an interesting video. It was actually a guy 10 years ago. 10 years ago, he was saying there was a plan and they were going to release a highly infectious virus into China, and it was going to spread like wildfire to the West. 10 years ago, this guy was saying that. Right. Now, if that testimony is credible and then that actually happened, well, what does that say about there are some psychopaths out there who are putting a virus out there looking to get people sick and kill them? And that's what a psychopath does. That's not a sociopath, right? I think a sociopath is a step down from a psychopath.
Right.
Psychopaths love to inflict pain and control. So I think for me, that's one thing that people really need to be. So I disagree with you that it doesn't matter where it came from. I think absolutely it matters how it got here because it says a lot about why we're dealing with it. And if these people are actually out there doing something like that, they need to be held accountable. And I think we're foolish to not be heavily investigating that and talking about it. I'm actually really disappointed.
Now that you've explained that to me, I know that's a completely reasonable thing to want. And
I would want investigative reporting on that. I would want to find that out. But we're just moving really quickly toward a vaccine. But before the vaccine, what do you think about mandatory masks?
Mandatory masks? It's irritating. It's definitely irritating because, I don't know, if I'm out for a walk, if I go out for a hike, you've been there, I don't want to have to put on a mask. I'm in the middle of the woods. I don't want to have to put on a mask and have some other random stranger be like, what are you doing? Put on a mask. Dude, I'm hiking. Leave me alone.
Right.
But
that dude who says that their name is Karen, by the way, my understanding.
Yeah. But if I go into a store and they ask me to put on a mask, I'm going to respect their opinion and what they want me to do because they're the owner of that store. And obviously I wouldn't have gone in there if I didn't want something from their store. Then I'll put on a mask. But if I don't have to, I probably and most likely won't put on one.
Have you heard about this new mask mouth? You were telling me about it. People are getting cavities and gingivitis. They're all kinds of oral disease is starting to show up because people are wearing masks. And again, you have unclean people wearing unclean masks. And just the whole thing is this super headache. When it comes to masks for me, I am completely opposed to it for multiple reasons.
Right.
None of the masks I've seen actually even says on the side of the box that it will not prevent COVID from being spread. So that right there tells me we shouldn't be wearing it. If it doesn't stop the spread of it, we should not be wearing them. I saw actually that the size of the virus in terms of microns is like 0.25. You could check my math on that, I'm not sure. But the size of the openings in the mask are like 1.5 microns. So the virus is going to get in and it's going to get out. And what they're talking about is, the virus being in these larger droplets that's going to be stopped or prevented by the mask. Again, I'm not convinced. I'm also not convinced that we need to be like semi-suffocating ourselves, messing with our oxygen intake. I mean, we're not made, getting back to Jesus, he didn't make us to wear masks, right? I mean, I understand masks have a utility in certain settings, but everybody walking around with a mask, I don't buy it for multiple reasons. I think it's more of a psychological control thing, quite honestly. I don't believe it's about the health of people. In the area that we live in, there's about a 20 square mile radius from where we're sitting right here, where literally nobody has the virus right now. Maybe 2 people in this 20 square miles has it. So mask wearing mandatory seems complete overkill. And I know people will be like, oh, well, somebody might come from Burlington or Manchester, or they could come in and, oh, it might spread like
Right.
wildfire. Well, maybe that person should wear a mask if they're coming here, right? But the rest of us wearing a mask when there's virtually zero chance of us getting it seems absurd to me. And then I think lastly, I would say from a cardiovascular standpoint, being a cardiovascular fitness specialist, you know, people were being told that they have to wear masks even if they have a cardiovascular condition. This is what other people were saying. I'm not saying the experts were saying this. They're saying, oh no, you should wear a mask when it was 95 degrees and 85% humidity. And these are people that don't understand what oxygen saturation is. They don't know what happens when you put a mask on yourself and somebody's already predisposed to some sort of cardiovascular or respiratory condition, and then they're out in that. I mean, even if you don't have a cardiovascular condition, that is a bad idea. So yeah, that's where I stand on it. But I do appreciate you. I think it's nice to want to wear one to make somebody else feel better. Maybe I'm just not that nice. I really don't want to wear a mask under any circumstance until I'm absolutely convinced that it's going to do somebody some good.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. If and there's a whole nother biblical Romans 14 there where people who are weak in faith would wear masks, people who are strong in faith wouldn't wear masks, and the people who are strong in faith should concede to the people who are weak in faith. I'm concerned that we are creating the tyranny of the weak is what I see. I don't know if you've heard of this, but if we're constantly being led by the weakest in our culture, isn't that going to make our culture more weak?
Yeah, you're only as strong as the weakest link. So I think that might be where it comes from. But also, you know, the people in power normally have money, and that's how they're able to get there. You know, while the strong are off going to college and becoming doctors and electricians and all that stuff, while all the people who have money are becoming businessmen and politicians.
Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from there, but I just want to steer it back over to how does the body deal with a virus? Are those strong actors going out and kicking the crap out of the virus? Or are they weak agents in the body? And do these little, antibodies have little masks on and go hide in their house and just wait for this virus to go away? No, they go out and they attack the virus, right?
Yeah.
And so it's implied that we need strength in order to get through this. And I just feel like instead of being strong, I think there's a lot of pushing people to pander to the weak and to not be strong, even right down to getting rid of exercise. But
Next point.
Next question. Mandatory vaccine.
Mandatory.
If a mandatory vaccine comes out, are you taking it?
I mean, I'd like to know what's in it first.
You don't just want Bill Gates to just stick a needle in your ass and just trust him?
Not really.
No?
I mean, I would
But
like.
it's Bill Gates.
I want it to be. I would like to voluntarily do it, not just have someone get sent a letter in the mail. You have to be at DHMC at 10 in the morning. We're going to give you a shot, and
Right.
we're going to send you home. So I would like to be like, do you want a vaccine? And then I can look over, is there what's in this thing?
My
Yeah,
understanding is this is the first DNA-based vaccine that's ever been introduced to human beings, and DNA vaccines have been given to animals for maybe some 10 years. This is a veterinarian friend who was telling me this. But there's absolutely no clinical trials that show this thing is effective. They're saying there may be a 50% chance that it's going to be effective. And I mean, quite honestly, we have vaccines for the flu, and yet people still get the flu all the time and die from it all the time. So the flu vaccine is voluntary.
Yeah.
Like, I've gotten the flu vaccine. Every time I've gotten the flu vaccine, I've gotten sick. Have you ever gotten the flu vaccine?
Yeah, every time I get the same here. Every time I get a
Get the
flu
flu,
shot,
right?
I get really
So
sick.
I'm pretty sure I don't want to get the COVID
Yeah.
vaccine so that
Well,
I get COVID.
yeah.
Like, that's what they introduce into your.
I thought viruses they're RNA.
What's that?
They're not DNA, they're RNA.
I was reading DNA.
Viruses. DNA? Well, you probably did read
The
DNA.
vaccine has DNA. I don't know, but the
Okay.
virus might be an RNA
So
thing.
viruses don't have a nucleus. They don't have
Right.
DNA. They're
Right.
made of RNA. what viruses do is they attack your cells and make your cells make viruses.
Right. So your DNA becomes junk and it just becomes RNA. Is that right?
It becomes a RNA factory for the DNA.
I
Because
see.
the
doesn't
RNA
DNA
needs
send out
your
RNA?
cells and uses its DNA to make more of the virus's RNA.
I see.
Because DNA can be split and RNA cannot be split.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Double helix science class.
Good thing this kid goes to private school. All right. Shout out to Mid Vermont Christian
Yeah.
School there for teaching
Not
you some
anymore,
solid
though.
science.
Mrs. Yo is a good teacher,
Yeah.
but I'm going back to Lebanon.
Oh, you're going back to lab?
Hmm.
Oh.
More
Well-
opportunities.
Yeah, well, hopefully they're going to be teaching you some of the same science there.
Yeah.
So we were talking about control earlier. You had mentioned to me you wanted to know more about the Jezebel spirit.
I did.
What do you know about spiritual warfare? Anything?
Why would you worship the devil? Because if you worship the devil, that implies you believe in God, which means you already would know that Satan loses.
Those are excellent points, but I think when it comes to spiritual warfare, it's not necessarily other people who worship the devil that you're working with.
Well, I know.
Right.
Yeah, that was the first thing that came to mind. You know, the army of, is it 11,000? I don't know.
I'm not sure what you're talking
Oh,
about.
okay. So there's going to be
Is
a
this
big,
in the Bible?
Yeah, it's in Revelations. There's going to be a big battle between the army of God and the army of Satan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it might be the army of 11,000, and then they're going to go against, all the devils, and then, Jesus is going to win. And then
He's already won.
yeah, he's already won. And then Satan is getting the boot into a very hot jacuzzi.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's going to be water there, but
There
maybe.
was a-
Yeah, no, it's definitely
it was
going to be a
bad joke.
sauna for
My
sure.
bad. The lake of fire.
So, just to explain the Jezebel spirit for what I've learned about it.
Right.
So, Jezebel is a literal human being in the Old Testament who marries an Israeli king named Ahab. And Ahab was told by God not to marry a non-Israelite woman. And she was, I believe, Babylonian. She could have been Assyrian. I'm not sure. But she was from a group of people where they worshipped Baal and false gods, and they sacrificed children. And Jezebel, if you describe her character, she's lustful, she's hypersexual, she's manipulative, she's controlling, she's wicked, mean.
Uh-huh.
And when she married Ahab, she started killing some of God's prophets. And Ahab, so if you talk about the Jezebel spirit and you talk about Ahab as a spirit, and this is what I've learned over the years, the Ahab spirit is the weak male spirit who refuses to stand up to this dominating, hypersexual, controlling, abusive, manipulative
Right.
female spirit. And I can't honestly say that the spirit is female. I don't know. I'm told angels are all males, so I don't know how there's a female
I
spirit.
thought they were
yeah.
just like angels.
That's another conversation, but
Yeah,
just
okay.
just based on
Yeah.
what I've learned about the Jezebel spirit and the Ahab spirit. Now, I did not believe the Jezebel spirit was a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just figured it was all hogwash, and I mean, come on, this is movies. I'm like, are heads gonna spin? What are we gonna see here? Am I gonna get puked on by some person? So I did some studying into it, and sure enough, it started to become more convincing to me based on what people were saying, but also in seeing people behave
Right.
as if they were being manipulated by this spirit. I saw it firsthand in people that I had worked with. I saw it in my home. I even saw it in myself. I felt, the more I went down this road, the more I felt manipulated. And so it was very unclear to me at first what was going on. But then, we met this pastor, Robert Summers, who does what's called deliverance ministry. Deliverance ministry is where he teaches you about this spiritual warfare and how to have God deliver you from all these different things that they do. A big way that this Jezebel spirit comes in and manipulates people's lives is you make these subtle agreements. Basically, you sin, whether it's sexual or gossiping or controlling or manipulating. These are all the different ways that the Jezebel spirit can get into your life. Usually there's something sexual going on. So if you're looking at porn, you're opening the door for the Jezebel spirit to come in. If you're thinking about, cheating on your spouse, you're opening that door. If you crave a leadership position, and that is not of God, but more because you want to be controlling people, right? And that happens in the church. So this Jezebel spirit, and then oftentimes there's that Ahab spirit that goes with it. There's somebody in your life who's in a position to check you or keep you accountable, and they're just too weak to do it. They just won't do it. And they just make excuses or enable. So, I mean, it comes back into psychology and things like that. But so I saw it, and I've seen it several times, and it was pretty freaky. I mean, I just the other day we had some people over and in a Bible study, and man, they were just losing their cool in this Bible study. And I won't go into a whole lot of detail because I don't want to compromise the identities of these people. But just put it this way. Ever since I started talking about the Jezebel spirit in the last week or two, I was talking about it with Ben Nichols, I've seen its activity pick up big time. I mean, I've had relative peace in my life for a little over a year now, like no problems with it. Man, the minute I started talking about it again, I don't know, it seems like every other day some crazy, hyper-dramatic, emotional, weird thing is happening, like stuff that wasn't happening before. And it's people acting out, it's people doing things that they don't normally do that are stressful and out of character and in character with the whole Jezebel thing. So I'm a believer in Jesus, but he fought demons, so kind of silly for me to not believe that those things are real. And that they have names. Satan has a name. Lucifer has a name. I don't entirely understand how it works, but that's what I understand. But I've also seen these spirits have to submit to the power of God when you call them out and you cast them out. And it's not some big old weird freaky thing. It's actually pretty uneventful. You just cast them out, and the person that may be struggling with it, you just see them become more peaceful. Right. That's what I've seen. So hopefully that doesn't happen to you. But this is like the end of our first podcast here. This is I don't know. How do you think we did?
Okay.
Just okay?
Yeah.
How do we do, honey?
Because there's always room for improvement.
Well, we'll know once we edit this and
isn't there a third point? Oh,
put it all together.
We
just examples of their activity. Okay. So for those of you, these are my notes right here, conducting the interview. So I mean, this is something I've wanted to do for a while.
Yeah.
You wanted to do something like this?
I wanted to start a podcast as well.
And just talk about random stuff, or what? Anything in particular?
Sit in a chair with somebody else across from you.
Just chat.
Yep. Just
go
talk.
Straight Joe Rogan on them.
Yep.
Without all the DMT use.
Yeah, I don't know if I would do that. I'm not rich also, so that kind of puts a damper on things.
So you're hoping that this will make you money?
No, it'd be fun to do, and I've had this opportunity, so now I want to help you.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can do something that people find valuable, and I feel like there's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, and that's useful, especially with all this stuff coming down the pipe right now. I just saw today there's talk that states can mandate vaccines and fine you or send you to jail if you don't take the vaccine.
Well, I mean, Chris Sununu, or you, we don't have the same.
No, we're Scott.
Yeah, Scott.
Scott's our
Chris
governor.
Sununu is pretty good.
So. I've been happy seeing what he's doing over in New Hampshire. Phil Scott over here, I'm not a huge fan, but I did appreciate that when he said people were going to have to wear masks, that he also stipulated that people's HIPAA rights are going to be protected if you don't, or if you can't wear a mask because of a medical reason, that you can exempt yourself out, and that people just need to trust you, which I think is good. I think people's freedoms need to be respected, but man, are they coming under attack right now.
Right.
Everything is just so chaotic. But that's another podcast.
Right.
We'll just wrap this one up. So Henry, thanks for doing this podcast, and hopefully we can get this thing sounding good and put it out on YouTube, and
Yeah.
I'll be happy with one fan.
One fan.
Like if we get one like,
Yeah.
if we get one like, I don't know if she'll sit through the whole thing again, you know. But you can always just go and like it, honey. That would be cool.
Yeah.
So someday we'll get her on camera.
We need that good watch time retention.
She's got good stuff to say.
Yeah.
All right, so we close it up and go eat some dinner.
Yeah.
All right, let's do that.
All right.